Welcome to Meet the Musicians, powered in part by Classic of Denton. The views and opinions expressed by the show hosts and their guests are those of the show host and guests, and not necessarily those of the sponsors, DentonRadio.com, or the Denton Convention and Visitors Bureau. For more information, visit the Policies and Procedures page at DentonRadio.com. Back, everybody, to another episode of Meet the Musicians. I am stoked about this episode because this is an artist that's going to blow y'all away. In studio, we have the one, the only Olivia Justice Countryman. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. This is a pleasure.
I'm really, really excited to have you in the studio. You're an artist I've gotten to see perform for quite a few years. Several different projects and renditions and things like that. And really excited to get to share you with the audience today. Because I think people are really going to dig your sound. And you guys stick around after the interview because you're going to be performing right here live in studio, and you are not going to want to miss that. So let's start off with the basics. I'm not going to ask you what your genre is.
Oh, okay.
But
hot topic.
But if you can describe your music for those that are listening, basic 30,000 foot flyover, what people can expect.
Okay, basic 30,000 foot flyover. I do the traditional singer-songwriter thing. It is all acoustic. It definitely has roots in, I would say, Americana music. I'm from the Appalachian Mountains, so it's got a little bit of that Appalachian sound to it.
Cool.
But also has, classical music influences. And I'd say it's simple. I try to be simple and pretty, and I think there's beauty and simplicity.
I like that. I did not know you were from the Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah, I'm from Kentucky.
Cool. Oh, we did.
Yep,
okay.
Yep. I should have come to bluegrass music a lot sooner than I did.
I understand.
So, I understand. As a teenager, my mom would put on these banjo CDs, and it was you know how teenagers are.
Of course. If mom likes it, it must be trash.
Yes, that was exactly it.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So what was your musical journey? What got you into performing?
Mm-hmm.
What were your influences growing up, and how did we evolve to the point we're at now?
Okay, so I started like a lot of young people. I started singing in the church choir, and then just kind of started realizing that I really liked it. And then somebody was like, "Oh, she's really loud. Like maybe we should get her in front of a bigger stage." That was the genesis. And then so I started studying opera, and I did that pretty seriously for about 12 years. I went to North Texas, and I didn't end up with a vocal performance degree, but I studied musicology, which is research in classical music. It is as nerdy as that field goes.
All right.
So my area of specialty was Baroque and Renaissance music, and so I started performing that. And that's all in the advent before there were big music halls and before there were lots of big sounds. And so that's where I kind of started distilling this idea of like really quiet, simple things, because that's what they were doing, like back in medieval times.
Sure.
So I did that, graduated, started playing around with people. That's when you and I first met, when I was playing in a bluegrass band.
Yep.
And that was when I first started playing instruments and got my hands on a guitar, and that went pretty well. And then somebody gave me a mandolin to play.
Yeah.
And that was love at first sight. So,
cool.
Yeah.
Well, and you've got that's what I've always enjoyed about watching you perform is the contrast between your voice and the mandolin, because your voice is so powerful, and mandolins are not that they're not powerful, but they're the higher end on a. I don't even know what you would consider. I need to get better on my theory. Well, I don't know. What would you call, like, not a tenor, but it's you're on the higher end of the sounds.
Yeah,
right?
I'd say it's like if we're going to give it a voice, it'd be the soprano of the string instruments, and it's got like this high little tinkling thing that it does. Like it's kind of always makes me feel like raindrops are like a pitter patter kind of thing. Like it's just, it tends to be delicate and wherever it stands.
Yeah. So, and that's a perfect way to say it. So, the mandolin is very delicate. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say that your voice is not delicate. That would sound weird.
Bull in a china shop.
But
it's fine.
It's a powerful voice. It really is. But I feel like that opera, I feel like that comes out. Mm-hmm. When you're playing with a bluegrass band, but you could feel other influences in what you were doing. And it's just really, really cool. You've got a really fun, unique sound.
Well, thank you.
So it was vocals from the beginning.
Oh yeah. I started playing instruments just to have something to do with my hands, because that's just, I didn't want to be the girl that was standing there with the tambourine. I didn't want to be the stereotypical, I just didn't want to be that. And so they were like, oh, okay, learn how to play some chords on this guitar. And that's how I started it.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. My husband actually was the one who gave me my first guitar and was like, why don't you just roll with this and lean into it? And so that's what I've been doing. So now I play most stringed instruments, not well, but I can play them. So, and then I started writing my own music about, I guess, 2.5 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So not very long, very long. I pretty much had something else go away in my life, and I was looking at this free time. And I don't do free time. I actually really believe that free time is important time. I try to be really intentional about what I do with my time.
Okay.
And so I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do with my time? And that's when I found the Denton Songwriters Guild, started showing up to meetings, started writing music for the monthly songwriting challenges, and just really started having fun with that. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, and I can't, I couldn't think any higher of the Denton Songwriters Guild. It's a really, really cool organization.
Yeah.
And an organization that you've been pretty involved with in previous years, which is super, super cool.
Yeah.
Anybody that's given their time to that organization, I take my hat off to, because it's a super cool thing that we have here in Denton. So taking a little bit of a step away from the music, outside of music, what other, I mean, you're very intentional with your time. What other things are you doing? Because you're a pretty impressive person.
Well, that's very, very generous of you, Jake. So mostly what I do with my time is I'm a law student.
Okay.
So that is almost completely all-encompassing,
Sure.
going to law school. And then I have a family. I have a podcast.
Very
cool. If you're interested, it's a political podcast called Dressed for the Protest.
Love it.
Looking at things from the progressive side of politics in North Texas.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Well, you've always been somebody who's very involved in the local community. And typically you're going to see you if there's something going on in town, which is really cool.
Yeah.
It's fun to see people that are involved in music and involved in all the other things that are going on here in Denton. It's just a fun place to be.
Yeah.
So,
and I never thought I was going to love this town. Like I'm from Kentucky. I came to North Texas in this area to go to college, and I was instantly like, okay, well, I'll get my degree in Texas, and then I'll like make my way, go back to the East Coast, just some snobby thing.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
when I just kind of started to fall in love with this place.
Yeah.
So I stuck around, and then suddenly I find myself in a community of people, and then find myself in a community of supportive artists and all the things that make Denton such a beautiful place to be.
That's
and
cool.
so I never thought I was going to call this place my home, but I've been here for 15 years now. So
I love it.
yeah.
Well, you really do. You form those relationships with other musicians and performers and folks in the creative community. I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day that loves to do shows over at the campus theater, and they were like, "Man, I mean, you're only there for a few weeks, and it sucks up so much of your time, and it's a very frustrating process. And then once it's over, you're like having all these withdrawals because you're not with your family anymore. You've created these bonds, and the creative community allows you to be able to do that in a lot of different ways, which is so cool. So, I really like Denton. Anyways, so
right? I know we could just talk about that.
We could talk about that for a very long time. Okay, so I want to get a little music nerdy.
Okay.
And let's just go. What's some of the nerdiest stuff you studied in school?
Oh.
When you're getting in the Baroque and all those kinds of things.
Okay.
Just fire away.
The nerdiest thing, actually, well, this might be my own bias. I don't think it's that nerdy. I think a lot of things, I think people have been people for a very long time. And so the things people were doing in the 1700s, we see people doing today. And so what I studied was how people represented the stuff happening in culture through the way they wrote music.
Cool.
So at that time in Europe, everything was very nationalistic. There was, think Europe in the 19 teens, right before World War I lit off. So it was kind of that same thing. And it was, you can write music in the Italian way, you can write it in the German way, or you can write it in the French way or the English way. And it was very much like, don't you bring that stuff in here if it was from someplace else.
Okay.
And so what I was writing about was somebody who dared to kind of break those rules a little bit and never got the patronage, never got the attention, of course, until after he's dead for 100 years or something like that. But looking at the way they represented those cultural identities in literally the harmonic structure of the music.
Cool.
So it was deep level nerd stuff. But I mean, if you extrapolate it out, it's nationalistic tendencies. We see that constantly throughout human.
Very applicable to many, 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 many things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very cool.
So there you go.
I love that.
Well, as nerdy as it got.
Music has always been a reflection of culture, and you can really get a great overlay of history when you just look at more and more music. Fantastic. Okay, so we always ask this question on this show, and this is our version of Marry One, Kill One, Something One, and this is Write To or Duet.
Okay.
All right. Anybody alive, dead, famous, not famous, 3 artists. You can write with one, you can tour with one, and you can duet with one.
Okay.
Who would they be?
Okay. If I could have a duet with somebody, it'd be with Tim O'Brien.
Okay.
hardcore mandolin player, folk writer.
Sweet.
Everybody look him up. It's fantastic. Write with somebody. So this one, the write and the tour, if I could write with somebody, it'd be Dolly Parton.
Oh, that would be cool.
She's fantastic.
Okay.
And if I could tour with anybody, it'd be with my latest music crush, Joan Shelley.
Okay.
She's phenomenal. Just named one of the top 10 folk albums of the year. And so from actually the same county in Kentucky my mom's from.
Hey, there you go. Love that.
So, yeah, I'm actually going to play one of her songs tonight.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, that segues us into the fact that there's about to be a live performance in the studio that you guys are not going to want to miss. This little interview is going to end, and then we're going to come back, so don't go anywhere. We're going to come right at you here in a second with a live performance from Olivia Justice Countryman. Guys, don't go anywhere. Thank you so much for coming in the studio.
Thank you.
Before we wrap up, is there anything you want to plug or send people toward, or socials or websites?
No, if you want, I put out an EP last summer before I started school. It's called Between Two Mountains. It's available on all the music sources, and if you come see me play, I always have a copy, and you can follow where I'm going to be on Facebook.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Well, guys, like we said, don't go anywhere. We're coming right back at you with a performance right here at dentonradio.com. Well, thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the show. We want to thank our partners and sponsors who made this show possible. And now stick around for a word from all of us here at Discover Denton. Do you love live music? If so, make Denton, Texas your next vacation. Find more information at discoverdenton.com.